Put your hands together for Gwen Stefani entering the studio.
Thank you for having me.
You look great. You sound great. Life is great for you, isn't it?
It's, you know what? New music never gets old. It is so exciting. It's been such a journey. And I didn't know it was going to be this like fulfilling, emotional, like healing, like all the stuff that it usually is, except for, I don't know, I'm in a different place in my life.
Of course.
And I really had to fight to get this record, fight with myself, by the way, to get it to this point. And it was really an kind of an art project for me because I knew it wasn't like anyone's really necessarily waiting for it. And it was almost like the idea of going and stealing moments out of my family time to like go be, I'm going to go write music. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've already done that so much. Like, just grow up kind of thing. But I also know that I needed to do it for my own sanity, for my own mental health, like, and my own artistry, like all the things that we need as people. So I'm just excited.
It comes out November 15th. The song we're playing is somebody else's. Bouquet is the name of the album. Comes out November 15th. When you talk about you had to get it out of you, do you feel like, did it flow out or was it a tougher process?
Well, I started a long time ago. I started like Kelly Clarkson actually was texting me during COVID. And we were like in Oklahoma with the kids doing the homeschool, doing the sourdough bread, all the stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, listen to this song I wrote. And I was like, what? Like, when? Like, I stay up all night, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what about the kid? Like, when are you writing a song in COVID? Like, I was so jealous. And they were really good songs. And so I started thinking, like, I want to do that. I want to write a song. And then I basically came back after COVID, and it was still COVID. And I went in the studio, and it was like everything was covered in plastic and a mask. And I met this girl, and like, I'd never met her before, and she's in a mask, and like we're trying to write a song together, and that was the first session I had. And then I actually went back and started doing a bunch of sessions just on Zoom.
Right.
And I wrote a bunch of songs I love. Like I even put out, a couple songs, but it felt like I really wanted to. I was chasing myself a lot. Like I was going backwards, like with trying to like compete with myself or something, and even just like stylistically, like. It just never landed. Like, it never felt... Like, even when I'd play it for people, it'd be like, they wouldn't react. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, you just know it's good when it's good, and you know it's not when it's not. And it just wasn't the time. Like, I wasn't landing. And it wasn't until, like, I finally got in the right group of writers that I felt... And got into the right headspace for myself to go, you know what? You need to, like... You can't wait for anyone else. You got to do this. And I wrote Purple Irises, which is the first song that kind of led me into the finish of this album, which actually got written pretty quickly after I finally figured out who I am today. You know what I'm saying? The art process is really weird. No,
I'm sure it is. I mean, I've written a couple songs myself, and they never landed. So, I know the process is hard. But when I listen to these songs, I mentioned before we went on the air that I got a sneak release of tracks that, the album's not out until November 15th, so everyone be ready to pre-order that. But I listened to some, and you're in such a beautiful place. And these songs, more so than any album that comes to mind for me, for you, will speak to people so much. Like, they're going to grab them and go, oh, my God, that's me. Even the darker ones are going to go, that's me.
Are you serious?
I think so. I really do.
I mean, I hope so. Like, that, at this point, like, that is the purpose, right? Like, I always ask God, like, use me for your purpose. Like, and I think about my life, and I think about me in Anaheim and being like, who am I? I don't know. Like, passive, not good at anything, dyslexic. And then I wrote a song. Like, I didn't write it. It was handed down to me. And I received a song. And, that process was 9 years of being in the garage, like just never thinking anyone would hear it, going through heartbreak and writing about it, not even know I could write about it. I didn't even know I could do that. It was like somebody that said, I'm going to do some backflips right now. I've never done it before. And then you did it. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know I could do that. So it's interesting because when you just be you sometimes and you just be truthful and honest, and that's what I tried really hard. I knew I needed to do on this record. That's why it took so long, because I kind of even after I finished writing all the songs with amazing writers, producers, all of it, I felt like I needed to re-record it as a bouquet. I needed to go back in. I needed to pick out just the best ones that represented lyrically what represented the last 8 years or whatever it's been, and like go in and cut it live. And I went to Nashville with a producer that I've been dying to work with, who would be like, you would never imagine us together because he's a country producer. It makes no sense to the Anaheim me and the Nashville him.
Right, seeing you and a country person together makes no sense. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, well, we're kind of getting used to it now. I've gone country, but not musically. But this guy Scott Hendricks, who had worked with Blake, and I got to work with him through Blake, and he's like a quirky, eccentric genius, and I wanted to sound like the songs that I listened to when I was a little girl in the 70s, like in the back of the station wagon going to church, like all that kind of, now we call it yacht rock, but it's that kind of,
exactly.
That sound.
That was our generation,
Yep.
Let me do this. Gwen Stefani's in the studio. I'll take a break, come back. I want to tell you, because I did get some sneak tracks that haven't been released yet, obviously. And I want to tell you about Mamusa. He was the Uber driver. Unfortunately, he did get to hear them as well. I'm sorry. So Mamusa did hear them. Funny. And I want to tell you about the girl in the back of the Uber that cried. You see if you can tell me what song you think made this girl in the back of an Uber cry when she heard it.
Are you really lying right now?
I am not. Am I really lying right now? No, I'm not. This is 100% true. And I'll prove it to you, Gwen Stefani, right after this.
Okay.
You're listening to Valentine in the Morning
on 104.3 My FM.
Listen anywhere with the iHeartRadio app.
Do I clap for myself? Yes. Pretend like there's lots of people.
Yeah, if you don't do it, then Brian has to go find some clap from some sound effect library, and it's a whole big mess, you know? So the song, Somebody Else's, that's what we're going to play in a few seconds here. Bouquet is out November 15th. Gwen is here. I mentioned that I was in an Uber. We're in New York for a radio award show, myself and Jill, and then John and Brian and Laura all there with you in the studio in Burbank. And Mamusa was our Uber driver today. And your team had sent me a bunch of tracks to listen to from the album. And what an explosion of relationship love this album really is. It's coming in all vibrant colors of music. It really is. But there's one track where the girl next to me, and her name is Jill.
I love you, Jill.
4 letters, just like your name and your sister's name, right?
Gwen, I love you so much.
I love you back.
And I'll let her jump in, but there was a track, she said, that's exactly how I feel. I even wrote down myself some of the lyrics from the song and everything, which I won't say because the album's not out yet. But she was just so impacted by that. And I thought, like, how many other girls and guys will be impacted by one particular song about how they finally feel? Do you have any idea what that song might be?
How I finally feel?
How you find somebody made you feel a certain way finally.
Oh, I'm going to guess Pretty.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Pretty.
Because Gwen, I immediately related to this era of yours with somebody else's, because I loved how you said that this song wasn't originally going to be on the album because, it's more of like the darker song, but you need that darkness to appreciate the light. So you wanted to make sure you had all of those emotions on the album. And I loved that so much because I'm in an era of my life where I am the happiest I've been, and finally finding that one person that I'm supposed to be with who came much later on in life after so many different relationships.
Well, this is your record, girl.
We're listening to it in the back of the Uber, and I turned my head to Val because my eyes were just filled with tears because it was exactly how I feel in this moment. And just like leading up to it, never knowing and never feeling like never feeling, I'm going to cry right now.
Yeah, me
never
too.
feeling like the right appreciation and that right love for someone. And then you realize what that love is and how someone can love you the way they do. And I know I'm going to absolutely love this album. So thank you in advance.
Oh my God.
Just hearing just a couple songs.
It's so wild because I honestly know that it's like a God thing. Like it's because if the fact that like I could just be like super honest about my feelings, and then that you could have the exact same feelings, it makes me feel like I was like used to like say that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, and I actually played the record for my entire like record company, Universal, the world, right? The other day we had like this huge Zoom with like, I don't know how many people were on there, like over 50 people.
Right.
And I'm like, racing around in the morning, getting the kids off. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, get in front of the Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm clicking through and seeing all these humans, like, in these little boxes. And we start talking about the record. And I'm literally crying. Like, it was so embarrassing. And that's why right now I'm not doing it on the radio, guys. I'm holding it together. But when you started crying, I was crying because it's crazy to play it and share it. Because I was thinking about this on the way here. You need to confess. Like, we as people need to share, confess, bounce off each other, love each other, like help each other in this life. Yeah. We're tribal. We're meant for each other. We need each other.
Community, tribal, you're right.
I agree. And I feel like it's like with music, it's that one thing that is, you can't see it. You can't see it. It's like, you can't see love. You can't see faith. You can't see hope. You can't see trust. But those things are so powerful, and music is so powerful, and it's such a binding thing between people. And so I just feel so honored. Like, and also like, I would never expect at this point in my life, right? Like, to be able to be here right now on the radio talking to you guys about new music. Like, I am so honored and just grateful. And I just want people to be able to get like a record that they listen to, and that hopefully that it's this one that they can just fell in love with and just listen to over. And you know what I mean? And it speaks to them, because it did that for me. This record did that for me. And I can say that and not feel like arrogant, because I promise you that these songs just appeared and came down to me like they all have, like in my entire career. It's just the most beautiful. I feel so blessed like that I got to do music.
You've painted such a great picture though too. You talk about, like, when you said humans in little boxes. I'd never heard that phrase before when talking about Zoom or something like that. But really, we are all human. We forget that. And you talked about the tribal connections. And in the early days, if you go back to caveman time, you gathered around a campfire. You sang songs. You told stories. So that art form of the spoken word and the lyrics that you bring to life with the music and everything, that is a connection that resonates in our very own DNA. And that's what this album, I think, is going to show people, the connection of love and struggling through love and finding a relationship that really speaks to your heart. I think that's what you've got in your hands here.
Wow. Well, I cannot wait for everyone to hear it. I'm so excited.
We could push it up and play the whole thing right now if you want to do a listening party.
I would be into it.
Well, you're the best. We appreciate you coming in. We're going to play the song as you exit. Gwen Stefani, always great to see you. I wish I was there.
Jill, thank you for crying in the car and listening. And
Mamusa.
Yeah, Emma Musa, shout out to you.
I've loved you since middle school, and it's so amazing that like we are on this path and you're still creating music that speaks to me. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I love everybody that's listening. I love you guys.
Did you want to introduce your song?
Okay, this is my new single off my new album called Bouquet, and this is somebody else's.